Welcome to Here to Initiate, a podcast for manifestors, leaning on the concept of human design. We manifestors are 9% of the population, here to initiate, and it is time for us to rise. In this podcast, I, your host, Julia, want to bring a missing link to the marketplace. Having been a mentor and coach since 2018 and learning more and more about being a manifestor myself, I now, with this podcast, want to specifically support manifestors. With my brand Luxury Goddess, which is all about female remembrance, embodiment, and empowerment, I have served thousands of women already, and I now want to specifically support manifestors as well. I invite you to fully step into your peaceful, powerful self as a manifestor. Let's become who we came here to be, shall we? Welcome to today's episode named A Manifestor's Timeline. And on that note, I think this episode won't be so long as we really don't need that much time to speak about exactly that we are on our own timeline. And most of the time it is quicker. And that doesn't mean that we always move quickly in a way where we're doing something constantly. The contrary may be the case, because when there's a rest phase, we really do need to take that time, and we don't have that defined sacral that charges overnight. So it depends really on the urges and the rest phases, depending on what's there right now, how we feel. And so this podcast title isn't intended to say that we're moving all the time or that we're constantly doing something, but rather that, as our energy type says, we are manifestors. We are here to manifest big things, new timelines. And I want to speak about that with you. So the first thing I want to share is that oftentimes in spaces in group spaces, I have this it's not even real anger. It's more a feeling of impatience. Yes. I shared that with you in the episode around and about anger, I think, as well. And I have this feeling of impatience. And sometimes in something like a mastermind, I haven't done that a lot, and I probably won't so much, because I don't really feel it's a manifestor thing. Only if we would come together as manifestors. I think that would be great. I think I would feel very good there, and you would probably as well, because we would all appreciate each other's moving through time and efficiency, and not needing too many words, or not needing too many words, but not too much time. And so when I am in group spaces, sometimes I feel this impatience, and I oftentimes wonder, should I chill out a bit? Should I be patient? But really, no, it's my timeline I need to honor. And so it's just showing me that I really shouldn't be here listening to everyone, and that it's really not the best format for me to be in a group setting in this way. And so instead of, again, reflecting down, which we tend to do, at least in my community, to, is it my thing? Should I look there? Do I have to heal a little more? Probably it's me. To look at, no, it's my inner guidance system that's leading me to what's best for me, which is definitely not listening to so many people being so much slower in their way of sharing, or in the time it takes for them to share, or, just all the people that you listen to. But instead of that, honoring that feeling inside that lets you know, like, you're supposed to leave right now, like the space, and, go home, rest, tend to the urge, whatever it may be. But honor your timeline, because you have that much energy available, whatever much it is, depending on the phase, if it's an urge or rest phase, or both in a day, right? Depending. And if you're very consciously or very much focused on manifesting something, or if you're in the laid back, chill, pause, break, pregnancy kind of vibe of the manifestation, and in the rest phase. And so it's really a lot about honoring that vibe, that energy that is so precious that we have, and how powerful it is, how much impact we actually have when we use our energy wisely and we don't spread it in a way where our energy gets lost. So that's the first thing I really wanted to share, and also really share, the pieces of my experience where whenever you have that impatience, it feels a little bit like anger, but it's more of this impatience to see I'm here to honor my timeline. Because if there is one weakness I would have shared with you throughout my whole life that I have, I'm not saying I just have one thing, one flaw, but that is the one that I always shared. I always said, I'm so impatient, and that's not good. I always said, I should be more patient, and that's not a good thing about me because I'm so impatient. But today, with knowing I'm a manifestor and with understanding all these different layers, I actually appreciate the impatience that I feel, because I understand it, as I said, and that's just the summary of this point, as an inner guidance system that is letting me know you're losing energy now, or you're about to lose energy now. So leave the space or leave the conversation, or let people know that you gotta go, right? It has nothing to do with anyone. Just peacefully informing that you need to do what you need to do and go where you need to go, and all the things, whatever it is that you need to communicate peacefully and clearly and inform, so that you honor your timeline. Because, and that's the second point, the next thing is that we are on our own timeline. We have that gift of being the ones that are fastest of all the energy types, if we use that power wisely to manifest. We are manifestors. That's literally what the title of the energy type says. The word says we are a manifestor. We are manifestors. Why? Because we can see things, we can feel them, and we can believe strongly and just make the thing happen, or initiate the thing, depending on how big or long the thing is, or the project, right? So depending on if we need help from the whole crew and all the other energy types or not. And so we are really on our own timeline, because everything does move a lot quicker for us. And when I look also at my work, like this work that I do, I've done it now for over 5 years, that people have come into my life and they have left and they've come back, and they do mirror back to me how quickly I have grown, how quickly I have moved. And that literally in those 5 years, I've gotten to heal my femininity, my sexuality, trauma bond stuff, codependency stuff, really integrating trauma. I have emigrated, made those millions, like all those things. I've done that all in those 5 years because I've always focused one thing that I felt I wanted to do, and it felt aligned, it felt true, and I just did it. And so we are on our own timeline, which doesn't mean that you have to do or achieve all the things. And it doesn't also mean that your timeline is my timeline, or my timeline is your timeline. And it also doesn't mean that it's bad if you didn't move as quickly. It doesn't judge. That's what I'm wanting to say. It doesn't judge. But it's inviting you into exploring how you can understand and really embody and live that you as a manifestor are on a different timeline than any other energy type. When you really let that sink in, and you let it in, you really say, okay, let me explore that as a truth. Then how do you honor your hits, your creative urges, the ideas that come through? How do you honor the clarity that you come to with your authority, which is either splenic, heart ego, or emotional authority, right? So when you know you're on a different timeline, you're the one who's really manifesting quicker, and because of that also initiating quickly, or at least on that timeline, the new thing for everyone else as well, even if they don't get it yet, even if they don't really cheer yet, but they've heard it already through you. And the more they will hear it, because we do inform, or they'll read it, it doesn't matter, right? But they get informed. They will be informed again and again through different manifestors or different humans on this planet, and the ideas can sink in, and the timeline that's already available moves through quicker. And so it's really honoring that this is who we are here to be, and that we have the power to call in the highest timeline, or the higher timelines now, which is amazing. It's beautiful. It's divine, because we, in my opinion, and my understanding of it all, we all came from source. We all are one love, and we all are souls coming from that source. And so the more we see our power and also our part in this whole human experience, we understand that as manifestors, we're supposed to have these intuitive, creative hits, urges, and channel stuff, or depending on the centers that are defined or undefined for you, but really receive that, move it through us, and when the clarity hits, to inform, and therefore call in a higher timeline now, like right now. And so that is such a gift in any kind of way, because it gives me personally such faith and such belief in that it serves people what I'm doing, and that it serves to inform, even though ideas are crazy for people and it's weird for people. We're weird for people sometimes. But to really know, that's cool. Like, that's just, my thing here on earth. And with this, I'm calling in a higher timeline. And the last thing I want to say to this too is that it's also a lot about what is the highest timeline for you. How do you feel it in your body? How do you feel it's true? How do you want to move through this life? What are the decisions you want to make? If you do not compare to anyone, because remember, as manifestors, we're supposed to be in our own field, not be influenced by others, not have any coach, mentor, or anyone, advisor, or anyone tell us what to do, but help us see what we want to do. Help us feel us more, integrate more trauma. Like, that's a good coaching for you. That's good for us. That's why I do exactly that, because I think that that is useful. But I'm not going to tell you what to do, because that's not helpful, especially not a manifestor. Like, to tell that to a manifestor. And so the timeline for you is really, are you stuck in illusion of validation, of running for success? Or are you anchored in truth and the frequency of truth and the timeline of truth in this moment and forward, where you feel alive, where it feels true in your heart and right in your heart, where you feel excited to be alive? And that is what I'm constantly moving with, and understanding too that as manifestors, or at least for me, I am easily influenced because I only have 4 centers defined: the crown, the ajna, the throat, so these 3 in a row, and then my emotional center, which is my authority. So I have 4 out of 9 centers defined. That's not a lot. So when I go into a group, I have all these other defined centers, especially the heart, the G center, the self center, and the spleen. And if you have more than 2 of those undefined, it's probably very possible that people influence you easily just because they're undefined, and it's kind of hard to just be in your field then. And as we are meant to be in our field with ourselves and our own energy a lot anyway, it's even more intense for us to be with many people, especially when it's not our space, but we're coming into a space, right? It's something different for me, at least, when I'm holding a space and there's 10, 20, 30 women coming in, no problem, because I make sure it's safe and I very clearly communicate what we're doing, like say on a retreat. And so that's not at all the thing then, because I can hold that for sure, safely, 100%. But if it's not my space and I come in and it's not as clear as I would make it out to be, I wobble a little bit with my undefined centers. And so it's super important for us to always retreat and discern and take a little more distance, not because, people aren't amazing or spaces aren't amazing or whatever, but just because it's better for us to be in our energy, to have those urges come through and to feel into the truth frequency of what we're about to do. And to always check back in with what is the highest timeline as we are moving and calling in new timelines so quickly as manifestors. Let us be mindful about this. Let us choose wisely which ones we do want to call in. Is it true, or is it in the illusion of this world? And sometimes it's a little harder to see as we are so immersed into it. So we have to take back a moment for us to be able to see the thing from the distance. So these are the things I wanted to briefly share with you in this episode. I hope very much that this served you. And again, it's all about contemplating our timeline and how quickly we move and how much we are really on our own timeline too. Like you can really see it as everyone is moving on their own timeline, and we are really very much out there on our very own out of space timeline, doing our thing, manifesting a new paradigm or whatever it may be that you want to do. And for many people that might seem very weird and spaced out, like, what are they doing again there? But that's perfect. That's who we are. And it doesn't matter what other things think, as long as we love who we surround ourselves with and they know us, right? Maybe we talk about that next week, right? About the manifestor in relationships or in relationship. We'll see. But that would be a cool thing to do next. So contemplate this, reflect on this, find depth in this, truth in this for you. How does this resonate? It's not about me telling you, as you know, and believing it, obviously, but it's about contemplating and looking into, okay, what does this activate inside of me, and how do I want to go about it? What is true for me? And see what comes forth through this activation of just the word timeline and the words highest timeline and the timeline of truth and the timeline of the now and your next timeline as a manifestor, a manifestor's timeline. Feel into this, contemplate, reflect, play, and I'll catch you in the next episode. This was today's episode for you as a manifestor in the concept of human design. I hope this episode and whole podcast serves you. And if it does, I invite you to leave a 5-star review on iTunes or rank the podcast 5 stars on whatever platform you listened, and or subscribe, comment, or share, whatever feels right to you, so we can spread this for all manifestors to hear and rise as one. Thank you from one manifestor to another. I deeply appreciate you rising, and I look forward to catch you next time. Always remember, you are here to feel peaceful. You are here to initiate. Remember to always inform peacefully. You are so powerful. I see you. You've got this. From one manifestor to another, yours, Julia.